Any practitioner worth his salt is aware that it's much easier to use an existing paradigm and explain that paradigm from a different perspective than it is to create a whole new paradigm. And in the spirit of that, and since I'm actually a decent practitioner, I'm going to use the 10 bowls to try to explain the path to you as it goes along and the pitfalls along the way. Now, people are going to ask, what is the 10 bowls? Let me read it for you exactly, okay? Let's take a look in Wikipedia. Wikipedia says, the 10 bowls, or 10 ox-herding pictures, is a series of short poems and accompanying drawings used in Zen tradition to describe the stages of a practitioner's progress towards enlightenment. Enlightenment can also be termed as, remember, the path is the same, it's just viewed from a different perspective. You could also use the concept of the path of a magician and his return to society to enact wisdom and compassion. I'll have a little bit to say about that once we get to the 10 bull. I don't fully agree with that, and I'll go into that then. So I've got some good news for you and I've got some bad news for you. I'm going to give you the history, a little bit of the history of the 10 bulls, but keep in mind, these are Chinese names, and you know what? I'm not even going to try to say most of them. The calf, bull, or ox is one of the earliest similes for meditation practice. Keep that in mind as we go through the different bulls, all right? It comes from the Mahagolopa Sutra. Again, guys, I'm not even going to try. It is also used in the commentaries, especially the one on the Maha Sutra. Guys, look it up on Wikipedia if you want to get the exact names. And another sutra by another guy. As Buddhism spread throughout the Southeast Asia, the simile of the bull spread with it. The well-known 10 ox-herding pictures emerged in China in the 12th century. Mentions 4 Chinese versions of the ox-herding pictures, and it gives the different names of the authors. Again, look in Wikipedia if you want to know exactly what they are. The best known of these is a version by, again, look in Wikipedia. Now, it goes into a little bit more detail. If you guys want to take a look at it, go ahead, but I want to dive right into this first bull, okay? And there's a reason for it. When you guys study, for instance, the first bull, and actually all 10 bulls, if you study it, you'll see that lots of people love to give you all sorts of commentaries on what it meant. When you studied the different masters, okay, I want you to keep something in mind. It appears as if, they do one-word statements, okay, but it appears as if it's too simple to be true. And one of the bulls actually talks about that, and I'll get to it. But the truth of the matter is they mean exactly what they said. You do not need a huge commentary, okay? They mean exactly what they said. So when you look up different traditions, again, there'll always be some intellectual master using the, remember we talked about this, conceptual or the calculating aspect of the mind to explain it. The 10 bulls is not meant to appeal to the calculating aspect of the mind. It's meant to appeal to the wisdom aspect, something for you to connect to. And since you connect to it, there's a truth to it, you have to use the wisdom aspect, not the calculating aspect, but you have to use your wisdom to understand what the simple statement is that they're making. Now, I'm going to give you a quick for instance. And this also even goes into a little bit of detail as to why you have to be careful of translations, okay? Christ said, and again, there's a lot I agree with Christianity. I really like the Proverbs. I believe most all of those are the Gospels are really good. A lot of those will really help you towards enlightenment or progression along the path, okay? As a practitioner, I hate to use labels on things. But he said, judge not others, lest ye be judged. All right, it's a really short statement, okay? I'm going to say that it was translated incorrectly. Again, I'm using the wisdom aspect of the mind. If Christ, if he actually did exist, again, it's irrelevant. The statement is correct. If you make one little change, judge not others, lest ye judge yourself. I believe that the person who translated it wasn't sufficiently, again, his eyes were not open enough, he had his illusions in the way, or however you want to word it. But he couldn't understand the concept of it, so decided to word it a different way, thinking that it would make more sense to people. But that statement doesn't make any sense at all if you think about it. Judge not others, lest ye be judged. Well, people judge people all the time. That doesn't make any sense. But if you think about it this way, if you judge others, odds are good you're going to now start to compare yourself, and you're going to be judging yourself. The question I ask you is this: who is the hardest on you? Yourself, isn't it? Nobody abuses yourself more than your own ego. Should you do something that is not socially approved, it will beat you down worse than... Guys, think about it, okay? Take a little time to meditate upon that, and you'll see that I'm correct. So it is true. If I stop judging other people, I'm probably going to stop reducing. I'm going to reduce that tendency to judge myself also, because I'm not going to be any longer comparing myself to others. I'm not going to be wanting to appear to be what? Better than them. I'm not going to be, what's the term that they like to use? I'm not going to be trying to build my self-importance by belittling others. Judging others is a process of actually belittling them. But anyways, that's not here or there. That's just information I want to give you. It's one of the pitfalls along the path. It's all over the place. You'll see it. People wanting to interpret what a master says and not having the ability, or shall we say, they're not far enough along the path to be able to interpret it. But that's the problem with translations. It's best to actually go to the source, to the original version, than it is to try to read any kind of translation. Unfortunately, in English, there isn't any real actual sources to go to. All right, first bowl. I'm going to put a picture up for you. Each one of the bowls, as you all may know, tend to have a poem that goes with it. And then, of course, a master will do a commentary on that poem. We're going to skip their commentary because I want to go to the actual poem. This is the first step towards wanting the process of a practitioner. Again, either going for enlightenment, connection with the Tao, understanding the nature of reality, the nature of the mind, those things that are around us, right in front of our face that we just can't see. This is the first step. In the pastures of the world, I endlessly push aside the tall grasses in search of the ox. Remember, ox is a simile for meditation. Meditation is what? A symbol for what? Self-understanding. So, again, there's several depths to this, okay? Following unnamed rivers, lost upon the interpenetrating paths of distant mountains, my strength failing and my vitality exhausted, I cannot find the ox. This is a stage that most normal people are in. And again, it's fine to be normal if that's what you want to be. I talked about this in previous videos. Everybody's on the path. And again, the path is a canyon. You got to think of it. It's wider than what we're thinking. Okay? So we can view the path from either the left or the right. If I view, and it's the same path, it's just described differently. So we're looking at a path, right? If I'm on the left-hand side of the path, and I'm looking at the path, what I'm going to describe it as is a path, and let's say there's trees in front of me with a whole forest around it, because I see the trees. Now, if I'm on the other side of the path and I'm looking at the path, I don't see the trees behind me. What I do is I see the river that's following the path. So I'm going to say the path follows a river. Now, each one is correct. They're describing the path, but from a different perspective. Now, imagine that there's hundreds of different perspectives to that path. Each one is describing the path, but they're describing it from the perspective that they're coming from, depending upon what their predilections are, what their mind can connect to, what their mind is going to interpret it as. But it's the same path. This is why I like to use the terminology that it's more of a canyon that can be viewed from different directions, although it's all the same path. Now, as you progress along the path, you're going to be able to discover, yourself, that everything that everybody was saying and all the different traditions, no matter what it is pretty much, some of them of course not, but almost any of the major traditions that have gotten involved in the esoteric explain it the same or explaining the same thing from a different perspective. But since you've now already walked that path, you can see the similarities and see that they're actually talking about the same thing. Am I making sense? Now, I've been walking this path now for 40 years as a practitioner. I'm going to be talking about stuff that I've already seen. So they're more experiences now that I'm giving you rather than conceptual learning. Conceptual learning is not going to get you anywhere. You have to experience it to get the growth. Experience it to be able to see the nature of reality. Once you can see what reality actually is and what is illusions, you can then begin to what? Make changes to that reality around you. Of course, there's certain rules that you have to follow, which we'll cover. So what they're talking about is this. You're in the world. You know that there's something out there. You know it. You can sense it. You can feel it. Every one of us has that drive, has that instinct. They can feel it. But you don't know which way to go. You don't know what the true path is. You're looking for footsteps. You're looking for footprints. You're looking for any indication. You follow different, dead-end paths. Maybe read about psychology. Maybe read about whatever, okay? These are the different paths that you've been following. That hasn't taken you anywhere. Dead end, paths to distant mountains, which is not the destination that you want to go in. Now, what it talks about is the final, which I really like, the final sentence. My strength failing, and my vitality exhausted, I cannot find the ox. The purpose of the first bull, and I talked about this briefly, and now you're going to be able to understand what I meant. To begin to follow the path, you must have intent. Okay? What you're actually doing in search of the bull is creating intent, creating a desire to walk the path. Now, you can't find anything because your conceptual mind is in the way. Vitality exhausted, I cannot find the ox. What he's stating is that mentally you're exhausted. The conceptual, the calculating aspect of the mind has now been exhausted. It gives up, it moves aside, and allows what? The wisdom aspect to come through. And we'll talk about that a little bit more and what? Of course, the second bull. If you want to do question and answer, about 6 o'clock is somewhere around there, PST. If you're currently watching it, and this is today, look at the date, I'll do a Q&A on a live stream. If not, look in description. I'll have a link to this video or a link to the Q&A. And on the Q&A, I'll have a link to this video. This way, you have an opportunity to ask questions. I mean, I can talk and lecture all I want. Interaction. Asking questions. Clarifying what I'm saying to you in a way that I can now explain it to you personally will help you in those realizations that you need. I'm John Masters.